Welcome to Live Signing. I'm Danny Valdez, and with us today is Senator Marsha Blackburn to discuss and sign her new book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman. And we're really excited to have you at Premier Studios today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, and of course, if you haven't purchased the book yet, you actually still have time to buy this book, as well as submit a question that we could potentially answer. Just head to premiercollectibles.com/Blackburn. So, are you ready to get started on your live signing?
I am ready, yes.
We've had a wonderful conversation before we went live here about your life and why you wrote the book, but I'd love the people who've just tuned in to know as well what caused you to write a book.
You know, one of the things that I had noticed through the years was repeatedly I would hear from conservative women who serve in elective office, and actually I've dedicated the book to all the women with which I've had the opportunity to serve. But they would say, you know, Marsha, it's amazing how the media has a double standard, and they'll treat women on the left one way, and then they will snub and diminish and demean and ridicule women who are conservatives, women that are pro-life, pro-family, pro-religion, pro-business, pro-military. And they get pushed aside, and women on the left are glamorized and are given lots of positive attention. And I thought, you know, I need to take it on myself to help defend these women and to help them defend themselves. And then when I would be speaking to women's groups and church groups, many times women would say, I'm not Democrat or Republican, I'm an independent. I look at the issues and I look at the candidates and then I make a decision up. So my question back to them would be, tell me the filter that you run things through as you make a decision. And what I would hear many times was something like, I want people to have respect for the rule of law and abide by the rule of law, and I want to see fairness and equality and justice in our governmental systems. And I want to make certain that government gets out of the way. There's a place for it, but I don't want more rules and regulations from the government. I want my children to have opportunities and be able to live their version of the American dream. Yeah. And I realized what women were saying is they tilt toward what we call a conservative value set, a smaller government, not a bigger government. They want their freedoms. They don't want government taking their freedoms. They want to make decisions that affect their children and their families and their health care and their careers. They don't want the government making those decisions for them.
Yeah. What's one of the themes in this book that you would say is maybe overarching or that you might be most passionate about?
One of the things that I talk about in the book is what conservatism actually is. Because if you listen to the mainstream media, you think conservatives are a bunch of gray-haired, greedy old guys locked in an office, and they're hoarding over the spoils they've collected from their career, and they don't want the best for anybody. Yeah. They're greedy. And we know that that is not what conservatives are. Conservatives want the best for their communities. Conservative women are educated and caring and passionate and beautiful, and they should have a level playing field. So, defining conservatism, going back into the 5 cities principle, looking at Jerusalem and the 12 tribes of Israel, where we draw our principles of federalism.
Wow.
And then going to Athens, the lessons learned there, then to London, then to Philadelphia, to Washington, D.C., and looking and reading through some of the writings of de Tocqueville and Edmund Burke and the French Revolution, how that affected us in conservatism.
This is all in this book.
It's all in this book.
Wow.
And William F. Buckley and Russell Kirk and Frederick Hayek, and then we come to Reagan and one of my all-time favorites, Margaret Thatcher.
Wow. So, you know, when I meet someone in politics, and it seems to be happening more and more, I'm always struck by their knowledge of history and their passion for history. Do you share
Yes.
that as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you know your history and you know where you've been, and you look at the lessons learned from a period of time or from different situations, you will not repeat those.
Were you take me back a little. When did you start to get a passion for? I don't know if we want to sum it up and say politics or what's the passion? When did it start?
You know, for me, a lot of it is found in how I was reared as a child by a family that always said, give back more than you take and leave things in better shape than you found them. So it had its rootings for me in citizenship
Okay.
and in Christian citizenship.
Yeah.
Being reared in the church and being involved in a church community and having a big family of uncles and aunts and cousins and people that were just speaking into your life every single day. And that is kind of the basis for conservatism. I went to college and had the opportunity to debate friends that were on the other side of the aisle.
And did you
on
know
issues.
you wanted to be in politics in college?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I never thought I would be in elective office. I was always involved because we were taught that it was part of our civic duty to be involved.
Okay.
But never did I think I would be a candidate.
Yeah.
And never did I think I would hold office. But the important thing there is to realize you don't chart your path. God charts your path. And you have to be open to opportunities. And for me, that's really kind of how it was. I was involved after when I was in college, I sold books for the Southwestern Company, selling books door to door. When I sold books, they didn't recruit women because women couldn't go away and sell on a sales team. So I talked them in to recruiting me.
Nice.
And then
Okay.
went to work with them as a sales manager and absolutely loved and benefited tremendously by the experience. So that's what brought me to Williamson County and to marriage with my husband, Chuck Blackburn, and then being involved in Williamson County, involved with the chamber, involved with helping start the library in Brentwood, involved with the Republican Party and chairing the party, and pushing others forward.
And at the time, not a senator, though.
Oh, no. I was a volunteer.
Okay.
And then I was trying to help recruit someone to run for the state senate, and someone said, you need to run for that seat. So I did and won. I ran for Congress and won, and then ran for the U.S. Senate seat. But never did I go about being involved in the community thinking, oh, someday I'm going to run for office.
Yeah, right.
That was the furthest thing from my mind. It just didn't occur to me. We didn't have women that were in very many elective offices in Tennessee. And when I was in the state senate, I was the only Republican female in the state senate.
Yeah, and of course the first female senator from Tennessee.
Yes, absolutely. But, just as I broke a barrier and opened doors at the Southwestern Company when I was 19 years old, I was breaking barriers for other women, whether they're Democrat or Republican. Because when you're breaking down those barriers and crashing through glass ceilings, you open opportunity for everybody.
Yeah. Is that a passion of yours, to be an example for younger women?
Oh, absolutely it is. Because I think it's just so important, so vitally important to be able to clear the way for those that are coming behind you. And I think it is really important to inspire them.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, and I'm coming to realize that more people are as ignorant as I, and a lot of people don't know this. You think somebody watching a show like this just automatically has government from start to finish figured out, and because
Yeah.
so many people I know, especially in Tennessee, they're so into politics.
Yeah.
But just humor us. What does a senator do? What do you do day to day?
We're a problem solver.
Okay.
And I have a team that works with me in Tennessee. We've got 6 offices in the state. We also have an office in Washington, D.C. Of course, in Washington, D.C. now, everything is basically working on remote. We can't have very many people physically in our office there. But we work with every county in the state. We work with citizens in the state, and when they have a problem with the federal agency, they come to us. And those may be problems of Social Security or veterans benefits, or for a county, it may be a problem with the Corps of Engineers or with the EPA or some other federal agency. And we come in along beside them and then walk with them.
Wow.
To help solve that problem.
Yeah, so much of the entertainment world and television shows depict senators as these abundantly rich, powerful people who are just scheming and they're just eating dinners at fancy restaurants and and then you meet someone like yourself. It's so cool that you're actually doing things.
Yes. We spend our time solving problems. When I go into D.C., I fly in to D.C. every week, and I work while I'm there, and then fly home for the weekend, get back to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our routine.
Yeah, and you stay busy flying and actually helping smaller government offices accomplish goals, etc.
Yeah, what we'll do is, like I said, there are so many things. It may be a community that is applying for a grant, or they may have a river and they've got a Corps of Engineers or an environmental agency issue, and they need us to help them. Or it could be citizens that need passports. Or it could be health care benefits, Medicare benefits. It could be Social Security benefits or unemployment insurance. We handle all of those issues for people. We are there to help solve problems.
Yeah. And I know we have a lot of audience questions, and people who've bought this book have asked questions, and of course would love to hear from you. But if you don't mind, I'd love to know just about your family life, about when you're home, when you're not senating.
When I'm not senating, what do I do with my time?
What is Marsha Blackburn doing at home?
Yes. My husband and I really love working at our home. I'm a gardener. And to me, stress relief is getting out and working in my herb garden or my flowers and working on our property. I just really love that. I love to needlepoint.
Okay.
And I do needlepoint pillows.
Side business?
And have made wonderful pillows as gifts for family and friends. And I cook. I enjoy cooking. I'm really kind of a healthy eater and really focused on that. So scratch cooking. I don't like to buy boxed foods and preservatives. We were talking earlier about the importance of shopping the outside of the grocery store.
That's right.
And
on the perimeter.
Yes, I don't buy things that are boxed and full of preservatives. It's not healthy for you. And my mother would always say, "Oh, that stuff, it'll make you look old and give you wrinkles." And I was like, "Oh no, let's stay with the good stuff." And every Sunday, I cook lunch for my family.
For your family? So for your husband and children, and do you have grandkids?
My husband and I have 2 children.
Okay.
And they're both grown and married, and our daughter and her husband have 2 boys. And then this week, our son and his wife had a little girl, and she is absolutely the most beautiful baby on the face of the earth.
Oh, that's sweet.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Yes, we're thrilled.
So, I'm curious. Hearing you speak and hearing your passion for what you do, and of course being able to meet you briefly earlier too, what's your opinion on, do you have a very positive outlook on government? I have so many friends that almost don't even believe in government, that I know a lot of people, more and more people aren't voting anymore. What's your outlook for the future of government and America as a whole?
Things really run in cycles, and I think we all see that.
Yeah.
And we're fully aware of that. Right now, I think that people are really paying close attention to what is going on because the rioting, looting, vandalism, the anarchy in some of the streets in some cities has been very unsettling to people. And it has caused people to say, we need to return to civility. We need to return to that respectful, robust political debate that we used to see in the public square.
Yeah.
And
people bringing intelligent thoughts and saying
and
something that matters.
Discussions, having a point, counterpoint, and being able to talk with coworkers and family and friends. And it's one of the reasons I give guidelines for how to do that in this book.
Really?
Because that is something people need to hear. Our country and our freedoms have been very well served by robust, respectful political debate, by having that public discourse that allows us to work our way toward consensus on issues, and people want to see us return to that.
Wow. Boy, that'd be something to see is frequent, healthy public debates where in the end something happens, something changes, it matters.
You reach consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're never going to get everything you want, but you can get to consensus. And Danny, the interesting thing to me is, and I talk in the book some about how laws are made and how the media tends to cover that and what really happens.
Wow.
But the interesting thing to me has always been laws that are done in a bipartisan fashion are laws that stay on the books. You don't see a lot of challenge in the courts or somebody pushing to get this off the books.
Yeah.
Because there was agreement when that decision was made.
When I met Trey Gowdy, he said a lot of people wouldn't realize this by watching television, but when the hot debates are over, when the cameras turn off, a lot of us are great friends.
That's right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
And Trey is right about that.
Yeah.
Because what you have seen is a move to kangaroo court some of these congressional hearings with the cameras on.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they are grandstanding, or they ask outlandish questions and then cut off the witnesses at the hearings and
turning
don't
it more into
give them time to speak.
Okay.
They use it to get their point across, not to learn from what the witness has to say.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunate.
Now, you have a lot of young people that come to Washington, and you mentioned, are these schools, or what's happening?
Yeah, a lot of our schools do a trip, and it may be for the 6th grade or the 8th grade.
Just from the public school system?
Right,
okay.
yeah. And they will bring students to D.C. and have them come in for a couple of days. And, they always want to ask, I don't care if it's elementary school, high school, college.
Yeah.
They'll say, tell me what a senator does.
Sort of like I did. Yeah.
What do you do? Yeah. They want to know how we spend our days.
Right.
And what we focus on. And so we always love having young people come in and having them learn about their government because, federal spending is out of control. And we have debt that will very soon equal our GDP. And that's dangerous. It's a dangerous spot. And I'm very concerned about that. And vote against a lot of the spending. But, what we want them to realize is that it is very important, as Ronald Reagan said, that every single generation love freedom and fight for freedom and defend it. and pass it on to the next generation.
Wow.
So that they have the opportunity to live their version of the American dream.
Wow. My kids watch a lot of YouTube, and as they're getting older, and we're going to jump to these audience questions, but I'm having such a good time hearing from you. You know, a lot of what they're watching is a lot of just ridiculous, aimless entertainment. And a part of that is these kids are showing up on cameras and saying things to young people. I would love to see more politicians show up on their channels, because every TV network, may not have you on frequently, but you could show up on YouTube or social media. And
we do a lot of videos, and we have a presence on social media, whether it is our official site, our campaign site, or for the book. You'll find us at Marsha Says for the book.
Marsha Says. And that's
at Marsha.
MARSHASAYS. Marsha
Correct.
Says. Okay.
And we think it's important to continue that discussion and to invite young people to join into this discussion so that they know what conservatism is, so that they feel like, you know what, I have something worthy to contribute or to say, and I want to be a part of this discussion.
Last question for me, and I promise we'll get to these audience questions. A young woman, a lot of young women I notice are very vocal on social media. Young men too. But I personally know a lot of young women. My sister just got out of college. I see a lot of young women at protests holding signs up. What can they do constructively? And I know sometimes those protests are constructive, but what else outside of an actual assembly can young women be thinking about doing in their life to see significant change that they obviously want to see?
Yeah, and I think it's the first thing to unpack there is a difference between peaceful protest, which should be preserved, the right to address your government and to bring your grievances to your government. That's vitally important to defend. What is not okay is the rioting, looting, vandalism, and anarchy. And I would say to young people that it's important to realize if you want to bring about change, then work within the system and realize that it is important to have that seat at the table and to work with, ask for the opportunity to address those issues. And that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, are you ready to take some fan questions, if you will? These are from people, of course, who have just bought your book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, and a great subheading, Seeking the Best for Family and Country. And, of course, you can get this at premiercollectibles.com/Blackburn. So let's go to Robert from Sparta, Tennessee. He actually says, we don't have a question. We just want to thank you and let you know we were praying.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I cannot tell you how much it means to me. So many times I will have people come up to me and say, you know what, Marsha, we're praying for you. We're praying for our country. And I think that is vitally important for us to realize and to be grateful for, because our country does need our prayers.
Yeah.
And we know that the leaders in our country need our prayers. And it is really something that I treasure when people say that. I've many times said, I pray for my nation. People will say, how do I pray for my nation? I said, you know what? I need to put some time and energy into doing a little bit of research on that with Scripture and with directions for those prayers. So I thank you for that.
Yeah. Johnny from Germantown, Tennessee, close to where I grew up.
Yes.
How can your constituents help you as you continue to expose China as a terribly great threat to American security?
Oh, my goodness. One of my favorite subjects and one where I have put a lot of time. And I would encourage you to, with your network, and you know what, Danny, I say the most powerful news network right now is not ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, any of those. It is the YOU. It is you and your circle of friends.
Yeah,
because
agree.
people are listening to their friends and neighbors. So I would say the way you can help me with this work on China is when you see something that you think is worthy of attention by your people in your address book, forward that article. Here's a great example. There is something in the news today. The State Department yesterday issued a warning to China about their diplomats that are coming over for these Confucius Institutes, that they're going to have to be cleared by the U.S. State Department. The reason for that is because the Chinese Communist Party is in control of everything in China. And they have given millions of dollars to U.S. universities, currently about 67, that have these Confucius institutes on their campuses. Well, China had said they're to teach Mandarin, they're to encourage understanding of Chinese culture, but then the foreign minister said this was part of their propaganda and part of their soft power. So we have been asking U.S. universities to rid themselves of these, and also K through 12 schools to rid themselves of these Confucius classrooms. So for the State Department to back those of us in Congress up that have been working on this issue, that is great. That's the kind of thing that should be forwarded on to everybody to say, look, good work is being done. We're achieving something. As we hold China accountable for pharmaceutical manufacturing, Senator Menendez and I have a bill. And we're trying to bring that back. As we take these steps to bring pharmaceutical manufacturing back to the U.S., send that to people so that they know China can no longer lie, cheat, and steal their way to a productive economy. We are going to hold them accountable.
You make a good point. Everything I believe about politics is from my friend Brian.
There you go.
It's not anything I've learned online. No book I read. Brian told me, and it is now the truth.
That's it. And you depend on him. And I bet you have from time to time read something online or seen something on YouTube and you've shot it over to Brian and said, hey, do you know the truth about this?
Absolutely.
Is this right or wrong?
Or when I'm going to vote.
Yeah,
I will
who do I vote for?
Yeah. I'll literally say, hey, man, I don't know how to say this more diplomatically. Who do I vote for and why? And it's not that I'm just going to do what he says, but he's going to give me good reason. And I trust him. Yeah. He's been right about so much. He's a trusted counselor in my life.
That's right.
So I appreciate you
the
saying
YOU.
That. The YOU.
Yes.
Amy from Granite Bay, California. Senator Blackburn, I'm a conservative woman in California. I work for a company with a very liberal CEO. Any tips on coping are much appreciated. Many thanks.
Oh, yes, Amy. We've got an entire section in here on how to have those conversations.
Wow.
And do it in a respectful manner. Good guidelines for how to defend yourself. And, going back into the roots of conservatism, as I said, and looking at what conservatism really is, but then bringing it forward and talking about how you defend yourself, how you have conversations about immigration and life and taxes and the military and a host of different issues, so that you know how to have that conversation with people that just may not agree with you, but do it in that respectful way that says we should agree to disagree.
Sure.
And we should hear one another out and not cancel one another out.
Love that. Sean from Greenville, South Carolina. At what moment in your life did you realize that you wanted to jump into the political arena?
It was when people came to me and said, you need to be the one running, not the one
Yeah.
running the campaign.
Yeah.
And because I did not see myself in that role, but I had always been involved. And there is a phrase I use, it's called mundane to magnificent. And I think that many times these mundane tasks that are in your life, that you think, why am I drawn to doing this? And why is this meaningful to me? And then one day there is an avenue for you to put that skill to work in a different arena, and you realize this is part of God's plan.
I love that.
This was an open door. All of this mundane, repetitive that I was doing was giving me skills that I could use to do something wonderful for the people that I love, to do something wonderful for my community or my country. Or in my case, I say it's the big five, standing up for faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity.
Wow. Mundane to magnificent. That's so good. Paying attention to those little things that are driving you, that you're passionate about when you're not at work, that you tune into and pay attention to.
Yeah, and actually I've said, I need to get myself busy. That's a pillow that I want to needle point.
Really? Mundane to
Yeah,
magnificent.
Mundane to magnificent. I've just not had a chance to get my canvas and work it all out.
World.
I'm a little busy.
Can
Been
you
a
imagine?
little busy here.
Can you imagine on Etsy some pillows from Senator Marsha Blackburn that say mundane to
Oh my
magnificent?
goodness gracious.
I can hear the amen through the camera.
Yes, there you go. Someday when I have a free moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Teresa from Dunville, Virginia. What can Southern conservative white women do to fight the simple-minded racist stereotype?
And, it's so interesting. I was actually talking to a young woman this week, and she had just done something significant in her work life and had been recognized for it. And she was stunned to learn through a friend that their friends and colleagues that were more liberal had spoken against her recognition because they said, what do you know
Wow.
about women's accomplishment or women's empowerment or women's rights? And she could not believe it because they think they are entitled to talk about women's issues. And as a conservative Christian, faith-based, pro-life female, that you are not. And what they don't realize is it is their prejudice and their bias that is getting in the way of sharing in the success that colleague has had.
Yeah.
And what you have to do, I many times say, don't get caught up in the petty. Just shake it off and keep going, keep focused on the goal. And for me, the goal is preserving freedom, preserving hope and opportunity, preserving our religious liberties, and preserving our family units. And that drives me. So you've got to keep that focus on the driver and just realize the things you do, the way you represent yourself and your value system, and that is going to speak volumes. And so I told this young woman whose spirit had just been so crushed, I said, you know what, you've got to hold your head high, you've got to go back to work, and you have to be gracious and kind and let them realize you know what they said. But it does not deter you, it does not define you.
As a senator and someone on the inside, if you will, do you believe that to cease the fight or stance, if you will, for conservatism and freedom, that would equal our country going in a very scary direction?
Well, what we have to realize is the Reagan thing. You have to defend freedom, and every generation has to fight for freedom. You do not pass it along in the bloodstream.
Mm.
So you never give up the fight. And bear in mind, America, the United States of America, and America is considered to be quite an unusual experiment.
Sure.
When you look at
point.
governments.
Yeah.
And that preserving that freedom is vital. You know, as I said, you go back and you look at Jerusalem and the 12 tribes of Israel, how you had the governance of the 12 tribes, but then you had things that they shared together.
Hmm.
And that's how you get the concept of federalism.
Okay.
And it's how you get that freedom and ability for individual rights.
Now, you mentioned these things in your book,
Yeah.
these ancient practices as models, if you will, of current federalism.
Yeah.
What for us ignorant, define federalism?
Federalism, and there's a great group, I think it's actually in the reading list, the Federalist Papers, and going in and looking at giving rights to the states and rights to the cities. And we as conservatives believe in a small, centralized government.
The idea that local people can make decisions?
That's right.
Okay.
The government that is closest to you is going to be the most effective government.
Wow, and that's founded on ancient principles.
Yes. Our Judeo-Christian
I
ethic.
just noticed you can't reach
Yeah,
the last
toss
three.
toss me these books.
Three more, and
We're
now these-
signing away.
these are all signed,
They're
right?
all signed. They are good to go.
Again,
yes.
if those of you who have just tuned in, there actually is still time to ask a question and buy an autographed copy of this beautiful new book from Senator Marsha Blackburn, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, which I'm having the pleasure to talk about.
Yeah, it's
and
fun to talk about.
Yes.
You know, because conservative women, it just really amazes me. There are more women that are independent than there are affiliated with either party. And those
really?
independent women tilt to the center,
Could vote either
center
way.
right. That's right. They look at issues and they look at candidates and they make their decisions.
Wow.
But the mainstream media would have you believe that all women are monolithic
Okay.
in their vote, that all women vote for a set of issues.
Wow.
And that's just not true. You've got lots of women, their lives are busy. They are working. They are tending to children. They are busy with activities and getting children to scouts and to ball games and, you know, fixing dinner and doing laundry and doing homework. And sometimes, if it's remote learning, serving as the teacher. So
Oh, yeah.
their lives are really busy, and they're wearing lots of different hats.
Yeah. Do you think as time goes, women will become more and more independent, voting either way, depending on who it is they're voting for?
I think so. And I think that women are very much given to looking at issues and making their decision upon what they think ought to happen with a certain issue. And that is more of an independent mindset.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. The education and involvement is a good thing. And you know, one of the things I find so interesting, there is that old saying, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. But many times children get their political leanings not from their dads, but from their mothers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is so good to hear.
Yeah.
This is so great to talk to you. You're obviously brilliant and so good at what you do. This is really an honor.
I
We have
love
more
what I
questions.
do.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
All right. So Jess from Jonestown, Pennsylvania, do you recommend Neighborhood Watch?
Neighborhood Watch, I think, has been an effective program for certain communities. And I think there are different types of community participation to keep communities safe. And what I have heard from so many individuals is that they form themselves together in their neighborhoods in different ways. But one of the issues that is at the top of the list right now is safety and security. And when you talk to women, that is a top issue. And I've really been impressed by hearing from women how they have worked with neighbors and friends to make certain that they are being very watchful over their children in the neighborhood, they're concerned about pedophiles that know where children are out playing in neighborhoods, and they are very watchful of the traffic that comes and goes, and they're very given to keeping their children safe and happy and secure in their neighborhoods and in their homes.
Last question here from Tatjana, I believe, in Indiana. Although she says she lives in Tennessee. There are many Serbian people that live in Tennessee, in particular in the Nashville area. What are your thoughts, and are you aware of issues concerning Serbian Americans here in the country? And this is a very specific question, and in former Yugoslavia and the greater Balkan region? What is your position regarding the independence of Kosovo and Serbian Americans' opposition to the Kosovo's independence from Serbia? Glad I wasn't asked that.
Right. And we know that for many that have immigrated to the U.S., that wanting to work through the process if they're seeking citizenship, that is something that is vitally important. We also know for many that what they want to do, in talking about the Balkan region and the old Soviet states, what they want is to make certain that Russia does not try to reform the old Soviet Union. And they're very concerned about that. Indeed, when you look at Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, that is kind of your new axis of evil. And I think for many who have immigrated and have come this way, that they are very watchful of that relationship. And they're very grateful that they have seen actions in Congress that are going to hold to account Russia, hold to account China. And they think this is an important part of making certain that freedom is expanded and not retracted.
Nice. So shall we dive in? I've got 22 questions that we hope to rapid fire and ask quickly. Are you game?
I'm game.
Okay. All right. So question 1, where were you born?
I was born in Laurel, Mississippi. And actually, my hometown, Laurel, Mississippi, is now the subject of a TV show on HGTV called Hometown.
Really?
And yes, and they're reworking a lot of these beautiful old homes. The wood industry is very prevalent in this region of the country, and a lot of good craftsmanship. And so it's fun to see that revitalization take place.
Nice. Other than me, who would you want to play you in a movie?
Oh my goodness, who would I want to play me in the movie? You know, it's got to be somebody young and spunky. I don't know. That would be a hard one.
I could go with Julia
say.
Roberts.
Well, I'm probably not tall enough.
Christina Applegate.
There's a good choice.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that.
We could do that.
What was your first job? We may have covered this.
My first job was actually having to pick up pecans on a fall morning or work in the garden with my grandmother. And then when I turned 16, I was able to work in a dress shop, and I thought, this is fantastic. And then, of course, in college, I sold books door to door and then became a sales manager for the Southwestern Company, and then worked with the Kastner Knot Company that's here in Nashville, and then hung out my shingle working in sales and marketing.
Yeah, but picking up pecans is where we started.
Picking up pecans and working in that garden, yes.
What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is that we would lose the freedoms that are so important to this country.
Who makes you laugh the most?
Oh, my husband. he tells
Accidentally or on
jokes.
purpose?
Both. He has a joke. He has so many jokes, and so I just have the jokes numbered. And sometimes at Sunday lunch, he starts to tell a joke, and I'll look at the grandsons, and I'll go, "That's number 357."
Good old number 357.
Yeah.
Well, what is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Oh, the one thing is probably spicy pimento cheese.
Ooh,
I love it.
you can just get that out anytime.
Anytime.
You just need white bread.
I make a mean one, you know.
Do you?
Yes, indeed. Give me that sharp cheddar. Uh-huh.
We're in the
Yeah.
South now.
Yes, we are. A little bit of Parmesan to grate into it.
Do you home make it ever?
Of course.
Or maybe only?
Yeah, you know. You have to make it.
I need to get down to one of these Sunday lunches.
Yeah, you do.
Can I be an adopted Blackburn child? Okay, next question. What is your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, my family, by far.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Who is the most interesting person you met recently?
Oh, the most interesting one that I have met recently. That would be, I don't know. That's kind of hard to say.
No live signing hosts or anything?
Oh, yeah, you know, I could go for that live signing host. He does have an interesting background, doesn't he?
What?
But, you know, there are so many interesting people that we cross paths with in what we do. And some of the ones that are so inspirational to me are the citizens, ordinary individuals that do extraordinary things. Some of our men and women in uniform and our law enforcement officers that every single day suit up and get out there, even though there is hatred spewed at them every day. And I am so intrigued by how they're so called to service. It is a part of who they are that they continue to do this.
Do you mind sharing your middle name?
Oh, my first name is Mary.
Okay.
My middle name is Marsha.
Mary Marsha Blackburn.
And my maiden name is Wedgeworth.
Okay.
And my married name is Blackburn.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is talented people who procrastinate and don't get things done. They make excuses. You know, God gives you talents and time, and it is your job to deliver. And when I see someone procrastinating and being busy but not accomplishing anything, I just want to shake them by the shoulders and say, get busy. You can do this.
Yes.
You know, look at a deliverable, set a goal, set a deadline, get this done.
I love this. What is the last book you read?
Oh, the last book I read. Let's see. I enjoyed reading Nikki Haley's book. I have recently finished that one. I've read a couple of business books. And then last year, an interesting thing I did was to read the Bible through in a contemporary version.
Okay.
It's fascinating to do, Danny, because it reads more like a novel.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is a great project. I'm so glad I took the time to do that. And then the one I just started this week, my nephew's wife, Abby Wedgeworth, is a writer in the inspirational vein, and she has a new book out called Held, and H-E-L-D, and it is wonderful. And she talks about grief and dealing with grief, and did a beautiful job on the book.
What is your favorite hobby?
Oh, I would say needlepointing, gardening, cooking.
I was going to guess needlepoint.
Spending time with my grandkids. My husband and I have said we don't buy toys, but what we do is Pop and Marshy's Book and Sports Club.
Yeah.
And they love this. They get it for Christmas every year. We thought it would be a one-year thing, but
A new
it
book,
is
you mean?
turned in. Every month they get
Oh.
a new book. They get to pick out a new book
Okay.
for their library, and they get one piece of sports equipment.
Okay.
Right.
These are
and
good.
we take a trip, and of course, COVID has made this difficult, but we'll go to a sporting goods store, we go to a bookstore, we talk about the books, and then we go somewhere, usually Sonic is their favorite, and we will go get something to eat, and we just have some good old time together.
Yes. What is your guilty pleasure?
Chocolate. Chocolate. Hot fudge sundaes.
Now, dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Yeah.
I'll eat dark chocolate because it's better for you, but I'm telling you, you know, a good chocolate chip cookie.
Oh,
Yes, and I make some, we call them amoebas because I make them with honey and butter, and the shape ends up being like an amoeba.
just random.
And, you know,
it's basically
they
a
are
goo
just,
ball.
Yes, they're just better than anything else.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any hidden talents? Nobody knows, but you can do.
My hidden talents. I can refinish furniture.
Really?
Yes,
Speak to
indeed.
me. I was a woodworker for years.
Yes.
Do you
and
refinish?
growing up in a family that has worked in the wood industry, Uncle Ben built wonderful church pews, and he would refinish high-end furniture, and so we all learned how to refinish furniture. So my daughter and I love to go antiquing.
Yes.
And, you know, I will see something and I'll check it out and realize the quality of the workmanship or the wood, and then make an offer that I think is a great buy and take it home and then strip it down and turn it into something wonderful. And it's just like, yes, you know.
Do you prefer sanding down or like chemical stripper?
I'll do a chemical stripper for paint.
And on the antiques, sometimes you actually, it really helps.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And getting those paint layers off and then getting down to what you had. And then I like to hand sand it so that you don't mess up the grain of the wood.
Yeah, rather than a random orbit sander.
right.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear.
Yes.
Way off the reservation here, what color is your toothbrush?
White. Yep.
What is your secret snack? Back to chocolate?
Yeah, I like chocolate and then salty items. You know, the salt,
Yeah,
the
sweet and salty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potato chips,
Yes. What kind of potato chips?
salt and vinegar.
Good old plain. Yeah. Man, there's some good ones. Whole Foods, I forget the brand, has some salt and vinegar chips that will bless your world.
That's great.
How do you take your coffee?
Black. I like Italian roast, French roast, good strong coffee.
Oh, it
you know,
reminds me-
growing up in South Mississippi and near New Orleans, you always had strong coffee. So,
This is motor oil in this cup.
yeah.
What is the last movie you saw in theaters? Remember theaters?
I do remember theaters. And the last movie I saw in a theater was Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
Yes,
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
What's the last gift you gave?
The last gift I gave was yesterday, my new granddaughter. I gave her a silver dollar coin that was minted by U.S. Treasury to celebrate the centennial of women getting the right to vote.
Wow.
And I wanted to make certain that my 2-day-old granddaughter had one of those coins, and so I had purchased it, and then when we got to meet her yesterday, of course she can't go to the hospital now, we had to wait for her to get home, and I gave her that coin.
Beautiful. What cause is dear to your heart?
Oh, when you talk about causes that are dear to my heart, protecting children, making certain, and that's why I've done so much work on the human trafficking, fighting online human trafficking, and because we have to make certain that children have a safe environment.
What is number one on your bucket list?
Oh, number one on my bucket list. That's pretty tough to say. I'm not exactly sure what I would say is number one. We enjoy traveling together as a family and having time between Christmas and New Year every year. And we've had a couple of trips planned, but of course they were pushed aside because of COVID. So we'll see about that.
Where do you want to go that you've never been?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Why New Zealand?
I just think it would be an interesting